So magandang hapon ulit sa inyong lahat. It's really nice to see Sec Boy, Asek Lea, Yusek, Yusek Gev, sino pa bang nandito? Okay, Director Ray, Yusek Ami is also here. Nagpapalit-palit yung yung nasa screen ko. And of course, members of PAASE. Uh, Everyone is here. To start off our short program for this afternoon, Ma'am Giselle, do you still want to do an introduction of our guests? Or diretso na ako sa opening remarks?
We have a program.
Yes. And it says nga that we introduce all our guests.
I think we have done that, but we have other guests like Dr. Irene Villasenor, Dean Ino Nansigan, and Tito Aliga of UP Earthly. So perhaps we can do it just quickly.
Okay, so so welcome again to our friends from the Department of Science and Technology, Sec Boy, Yusek Gev. Wala kasi yung names ng lahat dito sa participants eh. Asek Lea, can you help me with who else from DOST are present?
Ano pangalan mo?
Doc CP, I think it's Secretary, Doc Yusek Geb, and myself, plus the others are the Secretariat.
Okay.
We also have Director Ray Ebora,
Director Ray,
Deputy Executive Director Joel Calora.
Thank you, Yusek Gev. And from PAASE, we have Dr. Giselle Concepcion, of course, Ma'am Ami Guevara, Dr. Ann Villalobos, Al Serafica, Dr. Irene Villasenor, Dr. Ino Lansigan, Dr. Tito Aliga, and myself. Okay, so I think we've covered all those who are present this afternoon. And to start our program, may I ask for Ma'am Gev's opening remarks. Ma'am Gev, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. CP. Distinguished guests, colleagues and friends from DOST and PAASE, ladies and gentlemen, first allow me to thank everyone for gracing us with your presence this afternoon, especially Secretary Boy de la Peña, Assistant Secretary Lea Buendia, Dr. Gisela Concepcion, Dr. Annabel Villalobos, Dr. Al Serafica, Dr. Felino Lansigan, Yusek Ami Guevara, Dr. Ray Ebora, of course, our UP EARDFI Executive Director, Tito Aliga, Dr. Irene Villasenor, and the other members of the Secretariat from the International Operation of DOST. You are welcome to witness the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Department of Science and Technology and the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, or PAASE. PAASE has always been closely linked to DOST in various ways, especially through the DOST Balik Scientist Initiative and many other scholarly and scientific endeavors. Over the years, PAASE has been a major source of Balik scientists and continues its active involvement in DOST's Brain Gain program. Many of the PAASE who become Balik scientists eventually become stay scientists in the Philippines. DOST and PAASE recognize that there are important synergies and mutually beneficial opportunities for us in working together. I see a fantastic window of opportunity that this MOU will lead to many new joint research initiatives, accelerate innovation, increase technology transfer, capacitate researchers, and even get startups in the Philippines with startups in the US to partner together and encourage more talents in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or STEM fields. Despite the unprecedented challenges, DOST sees opportunities where science, technology, and innovation, or STI, can play a significant role in our move towards recovery in a post-COVID-19 pandemic, especially with our own Filipino scientists and researchers working hand in hand to provide solutions to the pressing concerns and needs brought about by the pandemic. Indeed, this partnership is a timely response to the inevitable challenges, while at the same time strengthening the country's resilience to future pandemics. With the signing of this MOU, we have taken one important step towards strengthening the connection between DOST and PAASE, and I am confident that through our concerted efforts and commitment, we will bring scientific and technological advancements to various regions of the country and equip us for the fourth industrial revolution. We have much in common, but we also have great things to share with one another, and this could be better achieved through the platform created by this MOU. We look forward to exploring new ways to further develop this cooperation and join hands with PAASE to create a robust collaboration in science, technology, and innovation for the greater good of our people. Thank you very much, and magandang agham po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Yusek Gev. Of course, many of the PAASE members and many who are present today are engaged with DOST through various programs and projects of the department. But I like what you said. I think the MOU strengthens the connection between PAASE as an organization and DOST, and we hope that through the MOU there would be more synergy between our organization and the department. So thank you, Yusek Gev. Now, to present on possible areas for cooperation between DOST and PAASE, may I call on Dr. Ann Villalobos? Ann? You're muted, Ann.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about my contributions to Mindanao under the Balik Scientist Program, hosted by our PAASE colleague, academician Victor Amoroso of Central Mindanao University. So the studies revolve around improving lives and the chemical wonders of the mountain ecosystems in Mindanao. And before I will start with a snapshot of all the studies, I would like to remind you that humans, especially indigenous peoples, rely on the richness of biodiversity for source of healthy food and medicine. And importantly, the more biodiverse an ecosystem is, the more protected it is for a single pathogen to spread rapidly and dominate. A good example of that is the SARS-CoV-2 that's causing the pandemic that we have right now. And I cannot move my slides. Okay. Now, I learned about the Balik Scientist Program since I really wanted to give back to the Philippines when I was working in the US from PAASE. So I'm so thankful for that because that year I started to be engaged as a short-term Balik scientist. And many of my goals are there. And one of those is to really improve the quality of life in terms of safe and efficacious drugs, abundance of healthy food, and additional income. And this has to be backed by strong science to harness the wonders of rich natural resources of the Philippines. So many of these collaborations are with other organizations and with PAASE colleagues, as you will see in many of these snapshot of studies later on. And why did I choose CMU? Because CMU has a platform already of biodiversity The researchers here know Mindanao very well. They know all the plants where they are located, and most of these are indigenous plants, and there's a lot of edible and medicinal plants that remain on top. So that's a big opportunity there. And it has a core of experience and published multidisciplinary, and these are friends of mine and former colleagues because I was an instructor in Central Mindanao University before. And since my background is in chemistry, I thought working with these field biologists, I can retool to integrate the chemical wonders of the mountain ecosystem, which we really need in the current time for researches. And important one is there are many poor people in Mindanao. So many can be benefited even for a little help, just as a start. So this is the playground that we have in Mindanao. The Philippines has 13 long-term ecological sites, research sites, in which 5 are in Mindanao, spanning Davao Oriental, which is in Mount Hamigiran, Cotabato, Mount Apo, and then Bukidnon, Mount Musuan, and Mount Kitanglad, and Misamis Occidental, which is Mount Malindang. Although Mount Malindang is not included in our studies because of the harsh political condition there. And because I mentioned before that I'm working with field biologists, and then we are to start doing all the analytical testing as part of the projects. Now, we have to do capability building. So I did a lot of training almost every day when I was new here. And whenever an instrument is there, or sometimes we imagine just theoretical, I talk about the instrument capability and so on. And because of this, many were trained on analytical tests. And I think we were successful because some of them became quantitative analysts, which is really good for the projects that were incoming. And the first project that we have under my Balik Scientist program was funded by DEBAR. This is on the propagation of indigenous edible ferns. There are 10 that we included, and also utilization of it as an alternative, food source. So we collected the indigenous ferns in the mountains, and then it's initially propagated in the university fernery. As you can see here, this is now the modern fernery, which was inaugurated just recently. And then the ferns are initially grown there. And then later on, we have large-scale propagation at the foot of Mount Musuan, which is on campus, or in the rice paddies of the rice fields of the university. And these plants were used for food preparation and also for processing in larger scale for marketing. And at the same time, we provide all these edible ferns in the cafeteria of the university in order to really know the cost of return analysis and also return of investment, so that when we have farmer adopters, we know how to convince them that this is profitable. And this project resulted in a fern recipe book with all the fern recipes during our fern recipe contest. And we have propagation protocols in the form of IEC materials and several peer-reviewed publications. And then while we were doing some of the studies, we were already thinking of having a home for many of our studies and also a space for laboratory tests. So we started with a dilapidated building, and then we submitted a proposal for infrastructure in which CBRIM, or Center for Biodiversity Research and Extension in MOU, was established in 2014, funded by the DEBAR. 2016, we have the Natural Science Research Center with 7 specialized laboratories that include the Tuklas Lunas Development Center, actually. And then in 2018, funded by CMU, that's the Natural Products Research and Development Center, which also houses some of the laboratories of the Tuklas Lunas. So we have all the materials. We have now good laboratories equipped with instruments from PSHERD, from Picard, many of the DOST units, PSHRD of course, and then we extended our studies to several vascular plants. And in terms of food processing, in terms of antimicrobials, medicinals, and cosmetics, and now we include veterinary products. And at the same time, we have did some metabolomics, that's a comparison of secondary metabolites of selected ferns, whether it's collected in the wild or collected or propagated. At the same time, we do a lot of seminar field visits. These are lecture series about plant propagation and food and cosmetic product development from indigenous plants that we collect from these mountains. So we invited tribes where the plants were collected, the officials of that locality, and many farmers for them to learn what we do and what we do with the plants that we collected from there. It's a matter of linking with the indigenous people in a way that they know exactly what we are doing. We're not just throwing them away or using it for something else. So that's a good practice here. And we extended that with other provinces also, where we have farmer adapters. And for the other project, there's an urgent need for natural pesticides to protect the environment and also to produce healthy food. And Bukidnon is known as the food basket of Mindanao. And it produces vegetables that contribute like 48% in Region 10. So we looked at the diseases of vegetables like tomatoes and lettuce, and we screened 13 plants as potential source of fungicide, natural fungicide. Choose one based on analytical tests and science and reality of production. And we developed 4 formulations. Out of these 4 formulations, we choose only one, which is used also for large scale verification. This is field verification and optimization conducted in regions 10 and 11. That's at the foot of Mount Kitanglad in Bukidnon and at the foot of Mount Apo in Cotabato. So these are our farmer cooperators are the Manubo tribe of Davao and the Talaandig of Bukidnon. And we have these results. The formulation we choose, my name it is Stas S-Cure. And we do a lot of return of investment. So there's a lot of profit that can be generated from there. Secondary metabolite testing, and we identified some important ones that we are surprised they were there. And at the same time, in situ, in silico screening and computer modeling. So all of these are published in a peer-reviewed journal. And we also saw some potential compounds or combination to further explore for drug development, because we learned later on that this plant, Tasmania piperita actually, which is from Mount Apo and Mount Kitanglad, are used by the Talaandigs as the go-to medicine, So it's a good start to look at its potential as a source of medicine. And then we have another project that is in collaborative partnership with Dr. Homer Pantwa, another PAASE colleague, on mobile diagnostic laboratory to combat animal diseases in Mindanao. And this is in partnership that I arranged with the CMU College of Veterinary Medicine. So there's already an MOA. And the advantage of this is there is rapid response because of the mobile diagnostic lab equipped with the state-of-the-art instruments. Rapid response, and then gentle to the animals because they are treated in the farm. And then at the same time, it's not to spread the disease because it's just concentrated in that area. And this is really good for African swine fever that is a current problem right now in the Philippines. And then we have this Balik Provincia project, which is an agro-eco-sociocultural tourism and entrepreneurship. This is Widitala and Andig sa Bukidnon. This is in linking Central Mindanao University, which is an agro-ecotourism university because of its agricultural products and like in crops like fern and livestock and poultry, and also linking with Binahon Agroforestry, which is owned by Atala Andig in Lantapan, Bukidnon. Now, even though this Binahon Farm and CMU, whatever practices they have are backed by science, but in terms of expansive product development, commercialization, and entrepreneurship, they are lagging behind. And then in the other side of Lantapan, there's also a group of Talaandigs that practice and preserve the sociocultural and farming practices that is still very indigenous. And they also have their art, music, and so on, and they are educated within the tribe only up to a certain level. So we are trying to put them up together with CMU and Binahon Farm in order for them to advance in terms of science. And then at the same time, these three groups will be helped in terms of expansive product development, commercialization, and entrepreneurship. So we're thinking with consultation with Jewel Quilio, actually I spoke with him about this, and also with Al Sirafika, who is present right now. So think about that, Al. And then we have this other project that we are thinking, and this is with hydroponics garden. We have that also already in CMU with an ambitious goal of having a vertical farming model for CMU for all the cities, larger cities visited by typhoons in Mindanao. So this one we have already we have already consulted with Joel Quilio also for future collaboration and help. And whoever can help us on this one. Actually, Alvin Kulaba is excited about this and he wanted to help us. And thank you. And I would like to share a photo of all our activities during the for our mountain expeditions. We have different groups there. And also I would like to acknowledge all our funding agencies for all these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, for sharing the work that you're doing with CMU. As mentioned by Anne, a natural synergy between DOST and PAASE would be the Balik Scientist program. Many of the PAASE members did do their stints through the BSP, including Al, and a few others, no? So in my case, I brought in two PAASE, soon to be PAASE members through the BSP program of DOST as well. Speaking of ano pala, and speaking of hydroponics, DOST is embarking on a hydroponics program in Diliman, of which I am also included. In fact, galing ako sa UP kanina, Yusek Geb, so nag-harvest ako ng hydroponics ko.
Wow.
And so together with Joel Coelho and Picard as well, no, we can, I guess, parang combine forces, no, in pursuing this particular field of interest. Okay, so we now come to the point in our program that we do a virtual signing of our MOU. And Giselle, can you please flash on the screen our draft MOU? There you go. Okay. So I will read the pertinent parts of the MOU, starting with paragraph 1, the scope of cooperation. The purposes of the agreement are to, number 1, strengthen scientific, technological, and institutional capabilities of the participants. 2, to broaden and expand relations between the scientific and technological communities in both institutions. And 3, to promote scientific and technological cooperation in areas of mutual benefit. In paragraph 2, we list down here the means to doing our cooperative arrangements. A, joint research and development focusing on priority research areas. B, exchange of scientists and technical experts, including but not limited to the BSP program. In fact, SecBoy, pwedeng maging conduit talaga yung PAASE ng BSP program dahil there are quite a few more foreign-based Filipinos who have not heard of the BSP, and when they come into the fold of PAASE, then this is where we will be able to recruit them and do a BSP stint. Incidentally, some good news, isisingit ko na rin, the balik scientist that I recruited last year, hindi siya nakapunta dito because of the pandemic. Dr. Bem Evaristo from the University of Pennsylvania, who is now in Utrecht University, has actually, well, he's doing the short-term BSP program right now, but he actually decided to come home for good and join UP Diliman as a regular faculty. So yet another BSP member who later on would be based locally already. Letter C, capacity building, including but not limited to scholarship, internships, mentoring, and research enrichment trainings. There is an ongoing project in PAASE, which we tentatively call the STEM Intervention Program, of which Giselle, myself, Dr. Ino Lansigan, Father Ben Nebres, and a host of other PAASE members are involved in. We wanted to do a project that will improve the STEM instructions in the public school system. And this again will be better off if it would be done with DOST through SEI. So yun yung letter C. Letter D, PAASE to serve as an advisory group of DOST on relevant programs. E, support technology transfer and commercialization of research. F, organization of joint conferences, symposia, workshops, and other events. Letter G, promotion of collaboration among industries, relevant scientific institutions, and organizations from the Philippines, the US, and other countries in which PAASE members are based. And finally, letter H, other forms of cooperation as the two participants may mutually agree upon. The areas of cooperation obviously cover the expertise that are present in the PAASE members, of which these are all listed down. Paragraph 4, implementation of the MOU. And this is something important, that both DOST and PAASE establish a joint committee composed of representatives from both DOST and PAASE. So we can do that very soon and probably have a regular consultative meeting between the two groups through this joint committee. To implement the scientific and technological cooperation provided for in paragraph 2, it would be through this joint committee that it will be done. Specific arrangements or protocols will contain, among others, detailed description of the program's activities to be jointly undertaken, the manner in which such will be carried out, the cooperating institutions, their rights and responsibilities, and the financial arrangements. So a lot of projects may be with RDIs, Research and Development Institutes of DOST, or with different councils in the DOST. All of these potential collaborations can be hatched from the joint committee that we will form. Okay, next paragraph, please. IPR, this is something standard, matters pertaining to intellectual property rights that may arise from any project or activity will be determined and agreed upon by the participants prior to the implementation of the said project or activity. Next slide, or next page. Amendment to the agreements, dispute settlement. Okay, just in case mag-away tayo, it's there. Validity and entry into force. This agreement will remain valid for a period of 3 years since the signing of this agreement and shall thereafter continue to remain in force unless one of the participants suspends or terminates it in writing, giving 3 months prior notice. Joint projects which at the expiration of this agreement have already commenced but have not yet been fully implemented will be carried out now beyond the MOU to their completion in accordance with the specific project arrangements. This MOU has already been signed by Secretary de la Peña on the part of DOST, and on the part of PAASE, it has been signed by our President, Gisela Concepcion. So this would be an opportune time to do a virtual clap for Sec Boy and Ma'am Giselle. Thank you. Nasign na yan. And so at this point in our program, may I hear a few words, no responses from both Sec Boy and Giselle, starting with Sec Boy. Sec Boy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, CP. Thank you, everyone. To the President of PAASE, Dr. Gisela Concepcion, and to my colleagues at DOST, Dr. Yusek Geb Guevara, who is the Undersecretary for Research and Development. We have the Assistant Secretary for International Cooperation, Dr. Leia Buendia, distinguished guest, which includes my co-worker at the UP Engineering Research and Development Foundation, Tito Aliga, and all who are participating here today. A pleasant afternoon to all. It is really a pleasure to join you all today virtually in this auspicious occasion of the formal signing of this milestone Memorandum of Understanding between DOST and PAASE. When I was asked by Dr. Concepcion Giselle to make a presentation in the PAASE-sponsored, how do you call it? It was a fireplace or something. Fireside chat. I said to myself, I think it is high time that we come up with something more concrete. So this is, I sounded off Yusek Geb and Asek Leia about this, and they supported my idea of having a memorandum of understanding with the PAASE. And in fact, it was them who prepared the first version before I submitted it to Giselle. Actually, my first encounter with PAASE was way back in 2003. It was actually a joint convention that was co-sponsored by PAASE and the Philippine Association for the Advancement of Science. That was 18 years ago, held at the Manila Hotel. I cannot remember anymore the topics or the themes that were discussed, but it was a very well attended affair, both from local PAASE members and also coming from abroad. And they had very good outputs. I was trying to recover from the proceedings of the Philippine Association for the Advancement of Science convention, that joint convention, the proceedings of the convention, but I have difficulty now because of working in a very different environment. So, as you may know, people in the sciences and engineering, whether they are in government, research institutions, or the academe, or even in industry, practically move in the same circle and consider themselves as partners and colleagues. And of course, we at the Department of Science and Technology, actually, it's just a matter of time. Sometimes we are officials of the University of the Philippines. Sometimes we are officials of DOST. I remember when the first concept of technology business incubators came out under Secretary Polyosco, I was in charge here at the OST. And then when I returned from my secondment, and when we were supposed to build the Diliman TBIs, I was also made in charge by UP. So actually from one role to another, okay, because of our changing hats. And of course, we are not strangers to each other's work, having worked together in some research activities along the way or participated in our respective programs and activities. Sabi nga nila, the thread that binds us in this MOU actually is our common objective to use our science and our expertise and research and technologies for the benefit of our country and the Filipino people. This comes at a time when the world, especially the Philippines, continue to experience difficulties brought about by this pandemic. And so this is the work laid out for us, at least at the time being, to work together, maybe to combat the pandemic, mitigate its impacts to our economy and people, whether we are working along the lines of the medical sciences, or whether we are working along the lines of food security, or whether we are working along the lines of equipment development. All of this, I think, will be helpful now during this difficult situation, but they can be the jumping board for more things in the future. I actually was surprised the so-called programs in our harmonized R&D agenda have been very useful, particularly our programs in drug development, our programs in diagnostics, our programs in biomedical devices come in very handy now. Even the disease modeling came in handy. Even if we started with dengue, shifting to leptospirosis, shifting to COVID-19, I think the experience has been really very helpful. Now, our important role, of course, is to address real-life problems in our society. And in doing so, we need as many hands and minds as possible, particularly from our Filipino scientists and innovators, whose expertise will undoubtedly play a significant role in our response and recovery programs against this very difficult situation. With PAASE's reputation and the diverse knowledge and expertise that lie within this organization, we hope to position PAASE to a more active role as partner of the Philippine government to DOST, and not only DOST, other government agencies in promoting science and innovation that will benefit the people. I think I have heard somewhere that you had already some initial talks with the Department of Agriculture and other agencies. I think they really need science. For one, we hope that many of you will continue to avail of our Balik Scientist program that will encourage Filipino scientists to return to the country and share their expertise in promoting scientific, agro-industrial, and economic development, including the development of our human capital in science and technology. We are also keen in engaging the energies of our researchers, scientists, and engineers who can support technology-based investments and projects in areas of common interest, particularly in those areas I have cited in agriculture, health, and the emerging technologies. We may also work jointly on capacity building program that will enlarge our pool of science and technology workers in the Philippines. Following this MOU, we hope that all this will evolve into concrete programs and projects for joint research and development, capacity building, and possibly scientific conferences, among others. We also view PAASE as a strategic partner that could further expand DOST's engagements with scientific organizations, academe, and government in pursuit of joint collaborations on STI. I remember somebody asked, shall we have projects also in countries, with researchers outside of the Philippines and outside of the US? And Yusek Geb said, of course, because members of PAASE can now be in other countries, okay? Not only the US, not only in the Philippines, and they may have good connections there and, shall we say, established records as scientists. So we can do that. If some PAASE members are in Australia, we can collaborate with them. If others are in the UK, we can collaborate with them. Our hope is that this MOU will really strengthen the bridge we continue to build among other nations. This can be done through PAASE and the Philippine government through DOST. In this connection, let me just go to some practical matters. I do not mean to offend, but I would like to check on the legal personality of PAASE. It would be very advantageous if PAASE will be registered in the Philippines as a non-profit organization. Because if PAASE will have to deal with government, I think the question of legal personality will come into the picture. So better pa nga if it's a non-profit like a foundation. And on these matters, I'm glad that our Tito Aliga is here. He is the expert here on these matters. And if you so desire, you can consult him, okay? Because he has been running, I think, one of the most successful and prestigious foundations, not only in the University of the Philippines, but in the whole country. And that is our UP Engineering Research and Development Foundation. So if you need help along those lines, please do. And if you are already legally registered as a nonprofit, then the next step is to get a DOST certification as a science and technology foundation. That way we can move more freely in terms of agreements. Okay, so beyond understanding, we will have to reach certain agreements, and the agreements we need the legal personality. Now, with all of this, it is clear that we have a common goal and important work carved out for us, which will stand to mutually benefit from our combined expertise and resources. These are all but the perfect ingredients for a long and fruitful partnership. Before I close, let me just reveal to you something that maybe some of you already know. Okay, when to my surprise, I was appointed the OST secretary, one of the first persons who I contacted was Giselle, okay? And we had a very informal discussion, and based on our discussion, that was how I, how do you say it? How my thinking on the strategy crystallized, okay? For example, all these things about inclusive development through science and technology, strengthening the centers of research in the region so that they can address their problems, they can address their potentials. These were part of the ideas that were suggested by Dr. Concepcion. And even the strong tie-up with industry, which we are now operationalizing through, of course, Yusek Geb's efforts, ano, yung mga programs namin, for example, yung collaborative research to leverage the Philippine economic cradle. It's really that kind of thinking that our enterprises should collaborate with our research centers. Most of them are in the universities anyway. And of course, this nicer program that we have, the niche R&D centers in the regions, is actually putting into something concrete the idea of expanding our pool of researchers. USEGEB can cite the statistics, how much was the share of the universities outside of Metro Manila and Region 3 and 4 before we started these niche research centers. And now the share of these research centers in the regions are growing. Okay, and so I think this MOU will, shall we say, be a breakthrough. Of course, we are putting up these arrangements thinking of the long term. Okay, I mean the personalities will be gone after a while, but I think what is important is the framework and the, shall we say, the foundations. So allow me to thank all of you then, especially Dr. Concepcion, for facilitating with us the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding. We are very excited to the prospect of stepped up collaboration and scientific exchanges with PAASE. Again, thank you very much. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Sec Boy. Alam mo, first time kong nakakita na nag-present at meron ng inihain na MOU doon sa organizer ng conference. Sa'yo ko lang nakita yon, Sec Boy. I'll put you on the spot, by the way, Sec Boy. In the last 2 years of this administration, meron ka pa bang gustong i-focus na R&D area, no, beyond what you are focusing on, the projects that USECGEV has initiated? Meron pa ba?
Meron pa rin, and I think, of course, we have been talking about this for some time now. Hindi na siya bago dahil matagal na namin sinasabi, pero ngayon pa lang siya magte-take off. And I am referring to the building of capabilities for research in virology. And so kami naman, we initiated the filing of bills both in the House of Representatives and our Senate, and they are under discussion. But to start it off, mabilis itong ating mga kasama sa DOST, isinama na sa request sa DBM yung pagpapan ng research sa virology kahit wala pa yung Virology Institute, with the idea na pwede namang umpisahan muna in our Industrial Technology Development Institute, at kung matayo yung Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines, ay pwede namang buhatin na lock, stock, and barrel yung program na yon to transfer it to that new institute. Now, the others, of course, have something to do with very basic things. And I remember that we have actually been doing this, but maybe with more vigor. The NICERs that I am thinking of from here on are basically the shared type CP. Kasi the first 2 years, the niche research centers that we have supported in the regions, siguro about 80 to 90% of them are in agriculture and the life sciences. And I think this time we have to focus more on industry, energy, and the emerging technologies, plus the disaster risk reduction area. And there are now forthcoming NICERs that are dealing with water resources management, particularly in relation to the prevention of disasters. Finally, I think I should mention that there are certain areas now that we can put into good use, whether through R&D or through actual, shall we say, programs of application. And this is now being initiated by PSHARE, the one that you headed. And this has something to do with the initially the massive training on data science, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. But they made part of the requirements for this is online courses, good for 30,000 people. They made part of the requirement the so-called capstone projects that will really can be applied, lalo na yung mga taga-gobyerno na nag-enroll dun sa program, they can actually make their projects usable in their respective agencies. And the good ones, the good proposals, PSHARE is actually selecting those that they give additional funding. Kahit na siya ay project lang nung Sparta Scholar, they select those that will be given funding. So yun siguro yung mga bagay na gustong-gusto ko pang makita. And lastly, since I am in the area of industrial engineering, I think our area has not been put into, shall we say, wide-scale use in our public service system. And if I may just comment casually, ang daming sistema natin magulo, and maybe if these people trained in systems, okay, will be participating, maraming maitutulong. Dito na lang sa mga sistema ng ating smart food value chain, nakikita natin yung mga gaps, and I think pwede siyang gamitan nitong mga tools na ginagamit namin sa systems engineering and even the mathematical sciences. Thank you very much, Jim. Ang haba ng sagot ko sa
Thanks, Secboy. Alam mo, I fully support yung idea of more IE type of research. Secboy, yung mga operations research,
Yes.
just making the processes more efficient, for example, beyond yung mga high-tech, baka yun ang pinakamabilis na solution. And then
Actually, kung titingnan mo, pwede kaming gumawa ng hypothetical problem on how to, how to get the specific number of vaccines coming from the different suppliers.
Yeah. At saka sa LGUs, yung mga services doon, madaling-madali siyang gawing mas efficient. Pero yung isa mo pang binanggit about the Institute of Virology, siguro just make a mental note that there are many members of PAASE and friends of PAASE who are the leaders in vaccine development, COVID research, and they're all Filipinos based abroad. So pwedeng-pwede ka agad na itap itong resource na to and make the institute here locally world-class,
Yes.
at the very start.
Salamat, CP.
Thank you, Secboy. At this time, we'd like to hear a few words from our President, Giselle Concepcion. Giselle.
Okay, maraming salamat, CP. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Maraming salamat, Secretary Boy, for this very, very distinct honor and cause for celebration, which is the signing of our MOU, the formalization of our linkage of PAASE with the DOST. With this, I would like to greet USEC Gab and other DOST officials and members of the PAASE who are directors, especially former USEC Ami Guevara, who's with us today to help us implement this UST PAASE MOU. Also, thank you, Tito Aliga, for joining us. You're a true friend of PAASE, and we have so much to learn from you. But at the onset, Secboy, let me assure you that we have a PAASE Philippines subsidiary, which is a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal, and that is why we're able to receive support from DOST agencies for our PAASE conferences. Thank you so much for all the support all these years. And we really aim to become a DOST, S&T certified foundation.
Foundation.
We will work closely with that. So just as a bit of background to our other DOST officials with us today, PAASE is 380 strong PhD level group of scientists and engineers based in the Philippines, in the United States, and elsewhere in the world. And it was founded in the United States 40 years ago. And you can imagine that there are now many octogenarians in PAASE. The first generation of PAASE members, they're very distinguished. And then there's us, the next generation, and then the generation of CP, and then many, many others younger than us. So what we're saying here is PAASE is really a wealth of experience and expertise in the sciences and the engineering disciplines that we should try to capitalize on, mobilize for our programs in the Philippines. And we can all retire in PAASE and still be active mentally, intellectually, scientifically, and in a very real sense now that we are on virtual mode. And this is something that I have been telling Yusek Ami now that she's becoming very active in PAASE. Okay, so we move from UP to PAASE to DOST, etc. So I think the greatest resource would be our human talent, and the way we can contribute to the higher long-term, greater good of the country best is through science and engineering and technology. And I truly believe in this. So it's true that I was always, communicating with Sec Boy about how PAASE could try to help the DOST in all its programs, genuinely, sincerely, as volunteers. Because I'd like to think of PAASE as a volunteer organization, but not just any ordinary one that can contribute significantly to S&T and knowledge-based constructive development, progressive, inclusive, regional development in particular. So when we first received the draft of the MOU, I said, this is great, but I wanted a phrase on in different regions of the country. So that's now in the MOU. And let me tell you how we in PAASE would like to help you do that. Just tell us exactly how to do it, and we'll look for the right people to get involved. As in any organization, and there are about 380, going on 450 after the next election, okay? There are always only just a handful who are really active or committed to an organization. Okay? And we are blessed to have with us CP David, Ino Lansigan, Ami Guevara, of course, Alsa Rafika, always active in PAASE. Now, why is that? Because by nature, I think scientists and engineers tend to be shy or tend to focus on their work in the lab and also in teaching, on mentoring and teaching the students. But then if we provide the framework or the concrete ways by which they could help us, then they can be mobilized to work very hard for us. And so that is what this MOU provides us. It provides us the framework for working together with the DOST. So let me tell you a bit about what PAASE has been doing in the last few years, including during the pandemic. And so I became president in 2020, and then the pandemic set in, and we found ourselves virtually connected. We started connecting by email. And this was just like this, you know, nonstop emails among us. And some of our older members complained about it. But the younger ones, the real interested ones, appreciated it. All the updates on the pandemic. So beyond emails, we decided to activate our website. And so in the website, you will find PAASE COVID-19 bulletins on 3 strategic action plans. And not everyone in PAASE agrees with every bulletin. It's not possible, okay? With a diverse group, with very many intelligent members, specialists in their own fields. And so each bulletin has the authors identified. And with it, we required scientific references, okay, which were available at that time or from the past. And all of us also know that some of these references did not withstand higher quality scrutiny from the scientific community. But even then, we had this effort to come up with bulletins on COVID on the following areas: containment and mitigation, triage and treatment, and testing and fast tracking. And they're all there in our website. And then we had this plan to come up with a very nice 40th anniversary celebration and conference here in Manila. And we had a theme for it to continue on our October 2018 conference on outreach to Philippine regions SNT volunteerism. Okay? We said, let's do Balik Ka sa Bayan Mo Tayo Na. After the conference, we were already organizing ourselves into tour groups. And there were already about 10 PAASE members willing to host the tours, organize the tours and host them in the provinces, in the regions of the country. Alvin Colaba would do it in Leyte, and then a group would do it in Manila, and there would be one in Bukidnon, Andrea Lobos and Victor Amoroso, etc. And we would go there for a little R&R, but also to take a look at the DOST infrastructure, the R&D centers that you had set up, as well as visit the different SUCs and the HEI. So it was R&R and R&D combined, and it would be our way to get our members, both local and foreign, to see the realities on the ground. What's already been done, what's going well, and what else needs help. But unfortunately, that did not materialize, and instead we had a month-long 40th anniversary online conference where we had 6 plenary sessions and we had 30 parallel sessions every day, Monday to Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Philippine time. Some exceeded to 12 noon, just like CP's parallel session. Hundreds of participants. And so today we have all of these sessions recorded virtually and posted also in our website, and they serve as an SNT research reference resource for all of us and the whole scientific community, including our researchers and faculty and the SUCs and private HEIs in the region. So this is how we are trying to reach out to the regions. Okay. Now, what else have we hosted? We have Friday webinars in PAASE. And this is where PAASE members, also non-PAASE members, including a Nobel laureate in chemistry 2018, George Smith, gave webinars, okay, that are attended by our members and non-members via Zoom and also through YouTube. And this is also all in our website. Third, we hosted 12 PAASE fireside chats last year. And the ultimate or the most important of the chats was the one with Sec Boy de la Peña and the DOST official. So we thank you very much for that. And it was there that Sec Boy announced that my dream was coming true. And that is to sign an MOU with the DOST. I never asked for it. I was like shy to ask for it, but he offered it. And there are so many other things that Sec Boy said there that we took note of, which told me that this is really where the DOST, the NAST, the NRCP, and now PAASE and other organizations are coming together in a chemistry parlance, just gelling, or we're now nucleating. And when we nucleate, we seed and then we grow. Or in biochem parlance, we are amplifying or multiplying our effects. As catalysts, it's a very biochemical thing. We have a good turnover of products and results, good results. Okay, so I think it's really a great opportunity for celebration, coming together of the scientific community in different areas of expertise, in different regions of the country, and also for different ages of scientists. I'd say PAASE is intergenerational, and it is also very inclusive. I mean, you might say, oh, NAST is so, kind of exclusive, and how many of our great scientists and engineers can get into the NAST or even the NRCP? But then PAASE is different. So we have Filipino scientists and engineers based here and all over the world coming together. So I'd like to maybe end this with something more concrete that I've been discussing with some of our key members, most active members, and I've had so many interchanges and long ones with those who are attending today, including Anne Villalobos, who's a model for all of us. She's a model for integrated development, okay, in the Bukidnon area, benefiting the least fortunate of our communities. Way to contribute to alleviating poverty and hunger in the rural areas. Okay? And I think that would be a very, very important measure of our success. I've also had conversations with Gobet Advincula. And you can't imagine what we are also trying to plan together with the AMSEN facility that you are building at the DOST. Okay. But at the onset with CP and Toby Diary, maybe we will build simpler biomaterials, nanocomposites that might benefit our fishermen. So there was this suggestion that we could build boats, fishing boats with nanocomposites that would be made of our fibers, natural fibers, but reinforced with virgin polymers or used polymers. And this is what Gobet describes as upcycling, not waste recycling. Okay, those are just two examples of what we might be able to produce in PAASE. To summarize our initiatives this year, to organize them, I've thought of 5 spaces, and they are integrative in nature. So we're integrative in the way that we're organized in PAASE. You know, we have research expertise clusters, but we are members of about 2 or 3 clusters. And this is to emphasize that we want to be interdisciplinary and integrative in our approach. We're not just belonging to our discipline. We are belonging to REX, where we have other interests. Okay, but let me describe the spaces that we are trying to address in PAASE because they mirror the DOST agencies. And we will promote this as our PAASE mission banners. Bandera, bandera talaga, no? To me, first, it's poverty and hunger alleviation, food and nutrition for health and wellness, disease prevention, and long productive life of our workforce. So that's integrative in nature. Okay, we have to create value chains and value networks. Second, so after food for the whole body, we need food for the mind. As we said, the most critical would be the leaders. And there should be more leaders in government that I think are scientists and engineers. And so here, I would like, do you see, so I have to stop sharing first this one, and then I'm going to share the other screen. And this time I'd like to share with you what we came up with recently, and it's also already, do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. So we came up with our recommendations on S&T human capital development. And you see that this is prepared by CP David and myself with contributions from our other members. And we think this is the most critical thing that we need to address. And I'm so happy to say, CP and I are so happy to say that we recognize the contributions of the S&T in this document. Things that you already have in place that we would like to strengthen. And our approach here would be threefold. One is on the secondary level. On the secondary level, we want to address the science high schools and also the public high schools. So here we have an assessment of the current situation and we provide the data for it. And then here we have our strategic initiatives, including very concrete implementable actions. So it would involve the SEI of the DOST. It would involve the Balik Scientist program, I would imagine. It would involve the existing program of the DOST to support our students in their in the field-based activities. See, those are SEI programs. Now we have others that we think the DOST would help us with, and this would be to sponsor the creation of communities of teachers, mentors, and students in the public schools. And we are planning to host competitions for them, to train them for the international competitions. Now, for the science high schools in particular, very close to our heart is the VICER, Versatile Instrumentation System for Science Education and Research, which UP and UPD-IRFD are still pushing strongly. Okay, so actually tomorrow we have a meeting with the UP officials led by VP Cinch, Bautista, Tito Aliga, PAASE members, and also the manufacturer, chairman of UPD-IRFD, Alex C. Okay? And I just wanted to tell Sec Boy that the origin of Viceroy is really PAASE. I'm proud to say that because at the PAASE meeting in Houston, Mel Gomez told me about Viceroy. That is his name, this is his creation. And then in a month, Mel Gomez was conducting the workshop at the UPD NIP with groups of high school students and then a graduate student of NIP and a young faculty to create the instruments. And there were 9 that were created in the 2-week workshop. And Dean Gani Tapang was the lead person in NIP. So that's the history of Viceroy. And that is why we really want to push Viceroy with your help. Okay, there are I'll stop sharing this now, but it's so critical for the DOST to help us with this SecBoy and USecGov. Okay, and we only identified 10 because this is only how we think PAASE can help. But of course, there are more. I mean, we're thinking, of course, it should be STEM from the primary level of education, but we cannot help at this point. I think we need to get to the Department of Education for this. But anyway, I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'll just say that we will be happy to bring together the implementation team, the joint committee, and I asked Yusek Ami to join this team and a few others. But SecBoy, also remember that I had been prodding or requesting for meetings with you on Viceroy. And then this one, USecGov, the programs, the projects of biotech in UP Los Baños, which you always said, 300 million pesos investment of DOST to the UPLB biotech. And our researchers there are very happy with a 1 million peso revenue a year, okay, on your investment. So this is where PAASE would like to help, and Dean Ino Lansigan and I are shepherding this. And we were able to do this because we are also connected already to industry, and we invited them to our fireside chats. So we have agro business entrepreneurs whom we are trying to link up with the with the biotech. And when there's something that's really good, then we will try to get UPLB officials to help us with your help. Okay, so the second was biotech UPLB because...
Giselle, sorry to cut you there, but we have to wrap up our program.
Okay, so that's it. I think those two are the most important. The final thing is this, because I heard it from SecBoy, and this is very important to Tuklas Lunas, and well, it's close to my heart because for Tuklas Lunas, we actually have compounds that are in advanced stages of development, and they were not necessarily funded by the DOST. And so I would like to come up with a list of such compounds for cancer, for infections, gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria, and even for pain that we hope the DOST would support us with, given that SecBoy already shared this view with us at that fireside chat, that DOST could now support later stages of development of, for drug discovery and development. From marine and both from plant and marine. And two of them would be Lunacin of Ben Dalumen and Fred Galvez. They are PAASE members. The second one is Contulakin G, a very advanced anti-pain agent from Toto Oliveira. Okay, so I hope that you would consider these compounds. Some of my compounds are also very advanced in development. So with that, thank you very much. Sorry for taking time. And we look forward to a great cooperation and implementation with the DOST. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. Alam mo, SecBoy, I have high hopes for this MOU. It has been roughly around 1 year since I've started working with Giselle through PAASE. And I can safely tell you that Giselle is, working with Giselle is like working with USecGov. They are cut in the same mold. and Al Serafica will attest to that. They are passionate, no? Walang tigil yung trabaho, at kung na-deliver mo na, may kasunod ng kailangan deliverable. So with these two ladies, siguro I can safely say that there's only one other person that I'm more scared of than Yusek, Gev, and Giselle, and that would be my wife. But other than my wife, alam ko na seryoso sa trabaho at kailangan mag-deliver. The second reason is that in the last few days or so, both our institutions lost important members of our family. For DOST, it's Yusek Bren. So we miss Yusek Brenda a lot. And for PAASE, we lost Manny Velasquez also recently. And so if just as a reminder for us to continue with this MOU, this is comes at a time when we also suffered great loss, no, in one of our members of our family. So with that, it wraps up our program for this afternoon. Maraming salamat, everybody. Thank you, Sec Boy, Ma'am Giselle, Yusek Gev, everybody, and for presenting. Asek Leia, thank you. And sana matapos na yung pandemic at makapag-meeting na tayo. First order of business would be within next week. Ma'am Giselle, let's promise that we will email SecBoy our recommendations for the members of the joint committee. And also the same goes for DOST if we can elect already the members of that joint committee. Maraming salamat everybody, and stay safe.